In episode 139 of Flipping Genius, we're going to talk about how to stay legal, and I'm going to break down 5 potential deals and tell you why or why I did not buy them. 5. If you buy and sell vehicles for a profit or you want to, you're in the right place. This is the Flipping Genius podcast. Our number one goal is to help our listeners make more money. Every episode, we share information, ideas, and experiences of real-life car flippers. I'm Randy Lee. I'm the host of Flipping Genius. I've flipped cars most of my life. For over a dozen years now, I've been a licensed dealer. I am working to build the best podcast about successfully flipping cars for a consistent profit. Let's get to it, flippers. Hey, welcome to the Flipping Genius podcast, where our number one goal is to help our listeners make more money. In order to make more money, you got to stay legal, and that's what I'm going to talk about first today. Recently, Randy Jones, the CEO, CFO of the Alabama Independent Auto Dealers Association, my good personal friend, informed me, as well as all of the Alabama auto dealers, that we have until December 9th, 2022 to become compliant with the FTC's safeguard compliance rules. Now, fortunately, Randy had told me this before, and I've since taken the class and got myself straight on this. And I know that I told you about this before in a previous episode, but with that date coming at us so quickly, and with so many new listeners joining our audience all the time, and many of you becoming new dealers as we grow the Flipping Genius podcast and YouTube channel and the entire Flipping Genius storyline here, I thought I'd better talk about this again. And so allow me a couple minutes, if you will, so I can explain what is important here. Feel free to investigate this further. There's more information online. This is absolutely not a money maker for me in any way, shape, or form, but it just feels like the right thing to do to share this with you. The FTC, Federal Trade Commission, passed a rule, I think last year, that safeguard compliance rules had to be changed. Now, this has to do with the safeguards of the protection of the consumer information that we collect when we're making the sale of a vehicle, and this affects all licensed car dealers across the United States of any type, whether you do buy here, pay here, and finance in-house, or if you sell via cash, or however you do it. If you're a licensed car dealer and you want to keep that license, you have got to be compliant. The first thing you're going to have to do you'll have to designate a qualified individual to oversee, implement, and enforce your information security program. And then you must conduct a risk assessment on information security and existing safeguards. And then you will need to implement mandatory safeguards to control risk going forward. Now, all of this will be covered in a training course that you can take, which is how you'll become certified, or your qualified individual that you appoint will become certified. And every employee of your firm, I believe it's every employee of your company, no matter what they do, of the sales company. So I think if you have a separate mechanic division or a separate body shop division, I don't think it would apply to them, but anybody who's involved in your sales process of your dealership will need to take a certification course. And let me just jump ahead to the what if. What if you don't? What if you don't? The enforcement penalties will be drum roll, $46,517 per violation. I'm not making this number up. $46,517. I don't know where they came up with that, but it's enough to make this old boy jump to attention. So you've got to do this before December 9th, 2022. And what you can do is you can take a course. Courses are made available by your state Independent Auto Dealers Association. I know they are here in Alabama. That's where I am licensed, so that's where I know about. I know Texas and Alabama work together to create the course to try to keep costs down low for dealers, because to create a course individually or to study this individually would be expensive and time consuming. It costs $75 or about $75 for the qualified individual designee, and about, I think it's about $50 for all the employees each. The courses take about 60 minutes for the qualified individual and about 30 minutes for all the employees to cover the information. And then once you do that, you'll receive documentation that you have passed the course and therefore are qualified. You have to pass a little test inside there, but it leads you right along to it. And I believe this needs to be completed every single year. So if you're listening to this episode years from now, unless they've changed this, which I doubt they will, this is something you're going to have to do to retain your dealer's license. It'll also be something you'll need to do to obtain your dealer's license in the future. I think that's the information I wanted to share with you. So FTC safeguard compliance courses are available through your Independent Auto Dealers Association. If you're not a member, I always recommend that you should join. In most cases, you will get all of your money back. I know here in Alabama we do, because Randy does such a great job of networking with the auctions here that supply us our vehicles, and we save more money than we pay him. But the information like this is absolutely invaluable. So I recommend that you stay on top of your membership and learn everything you can from your local Independent Auto Dealers Association. But definitely heed this information. And if you want to send me a big thank you, you can. Just send it to FlippingQuestions@gmail.com. If you've got some questions, feel free to send them to me. FlippingQuestions@gmail.com. I probably don't know all the answers to this, but I will do my best to get you an answer or direct you to somebody who can answer it for you. This is important stuff, folks. December 9th, 2022. I'm going to take a break. We come back, we're talking about making money. All right, we're back, and now let's have some fun. I'd like to get all that business out of the way, and now it's time to talk about some money. Money is the number one goal, right? Flipping Genius podcast is to help our listeners and our viewers make more money. By the way, if you're listening to this, I want you to know it's available on the YouTube channel, the Flipping Genius YouTube channel. If you're watching me, man, you're lucky. You can also listen to the podcast, all 138 plus episodes, wherever podcasts are heard. You can do both at FlippingGenius.com. If you're watching, you can see my address above my head, and if you're not watching, it's FlippingGenius.com, and from our website you can access all things Flipping Genius. We're going to talk today about 5 vehicles that I considered buying and why or why not I bought them and what the outcome was. And I thought this might be some real life information. And I've been seeing more and more of this type of stuff on the Car Flipping Forum, and I'm delighted to see it because it's great stuff to share. A few of you guys and ladies have reached out to me with some questions about should I or shouldn't I buy this vehicle or that vehicle. What do you think about this one? And I love answering those questions. I'd love it more if you were had signed up with our coaching or joined our group as far as become a flipping team member or a flipping partner or a flipping champion. Those and more things are available to the folks. But if you reach out to me, I'm always happy to help anytime I can. Just that naturally I'm limited on my time a little bit, but you can reach out to each other too at the Car Flipping Forum. So if you're not a member yet, please join. It's free to join. Let's take a look at the first car that I want to talk about. The first vehicle I want to talk about. It's actually an old truck, 1994 Ford Ranger. Looked really good, a regular cab. They said it only had 78,000 miles on it. Little yellow regular cab, Ford Ranger, 6-cylinder with a manual transmission, chrome wheels, and they wanted $2,300. They were advertising it on Facebook Marketplace. The first thing I think of, I like a manual transmission truck, but there's a extremely limited audience. The next thing I looked at, it's a 28-year-old vehicle. That's also a limited audience. I like the yellow, and somebody might, and I could tell that they were willing to deal a little bit. I think the regular cab too, no back seat, could be a problem. But if somebody's looking for a nice little Ford Ranger, this could be a good one. Just that all those limitations can slow your selling down. The low miles, though, I had some questions about it, and the thing that I noticed is under the hood there was a different paint color. There was white in the engine well, and it probably had been either a utility vehicle or some kind of business vehicle before. And the first thing I thought of is maybe it didn't have the miles, maybe it had a lot of hours. I mean, my windshield guy was here yesterday, and he told me his windshield truck that he uses all the time has 400,000 miles on it. But I noticed it was running all the time he was here. It always is, all the time. So you got to look at hours. Exceptional vehicle for Al's case, but they're not all exceptional vehicles. And this is a 6-cylinder. I felt kind of good about that. But I had some questions about if the miles are legit or if there's a lot of hours on the vehicle, although it seemed to run okay. But I looked online. So I looked deeper online on the Facebook, and I noticed this particular seller, just under the name that he was advertising this vehicle, which people will have more than one name, had sold dozens of vehicles on Facebook. So right away, I started thinking this guy might be smarter than me. I'm not saying he's got his own podcast. I'm just saying there's a lot of you out there who are smarter than me. And if you've listened to me for 137 episodes, you know that I recognize my own limitations. So I started to think that I don't think this cat's going to leave a lot of meat on the bone. So I thought the only way that I would buy this is if I could get it for $1,000 or under. Or if I had somebody specifically looking for this type of truck and I knew I could pick it up and flip it quick without doing anything to it. So I knew I had to be cautious, just due to the fact that he's an experienced flipper and is likely just not going to leave that meat on the bone. And the other thing that in talking to him, I realized that there was no way he was going to sell this thing for anything less than probably $2,100. So frankly, I didn't buy it. I walked away, and that's the end of that story. You got to see a lot of them to walk away. Let's talk about one that turned out different. This was a one I picked up. I saw along one of my walking routes one day is a 1999 Honda Accord, 4-door. Pretty much. Oh, it was an EX model. It was a nicer model. It did have the moonroof, leather interior, in good shape. 167,000 miles, but it had a squealing water pump sound, which scares everybody. And the guy was pretty straightforward. He told me it was going to need to be towed because he was worried about it not being able to be driven. It did start up and it would go forward and backward. And he said, he didn't want me to drive it, which scared me a little bit. But he seemed like a real straightforward guy, and he was asking for $1,000, parked in front of his house on a side street and not well advertised. Fortunately for me, because the car looked pretty good. And the first thing is the car looks good. It is startable and movable, so I knew I wouldn't have to pay for tow. I could tow it myself on my tow dolly. I decided to take a chance on it. I called and got a quote from Dennis Johnson and my mechanic, and I checked on Rock Auto for how much a water pump was going to cost, and discovered that the water pump replacement was also going to require a timing belt replacement. But Gary told me that he could do the whole thing for about $750. And while I was walking around and noticing the car was in good shape, I also noticed that the tires had about 80% tread wear remaining on them, almost new tires. Air conditioning was cold, basically good appearance. Honda, everything worked on it just like you kind of thought it would. And the guy had owned it for quite a while, I think 6 or 7 years. And it had been his daily driver, just a solid car. But, one thing and another, he didn't need the car anymore, and it was getting a little long in the tooth. I projected that I would sell the car for about $2,400 once I put a timing belt and a water pump in it, because it was in very good condition. So I figured less than $850. I figured for total repairs, because there's always a couple other things to do, and $250 for overhead that I deduct on any car that I'm going to put on my lot. I want to make $1,000 on it. That's generally my goal, $1,000 or more per vehicle, depending on how much I'm putting into it. But since I buy cars in this price range, that was my target. So if you do the math, that only left me $300 to offer the guy. And so he's asking $1,000. It's a '99 Honda, and there's only so much. And I said, I know you got new tires on it, and I know that it's a nice car, but this is a costly repair, and I've got to pay for the repair because I don't do it myself. So it leaves me about $300, and I could tell he wasn't going for that. And he said, "Would you do 500?" And I rethought my profit. I thought, you always can sell a Honda. So I said, yeah, we'll do 500, and I bought it. And as it turned out, the repairs were only $790, because Gary always helps me out as much as he can down at Dennis Johnson. I asked $2,850, and I did a good job, as I try to, of marketing it and talking about the extra features. It had a good aftermarket radio, which they drive me crazy. I can never figure out how to use them, but this was a good one, with a screen and everything on the dash. It had a nice moonroof, excellent tires. Let's see, it had a brand new timing belt, of course, and a brand new water pump, and ran just beautiful. And the battery was almost brand new also. And I wound up selling it for, I asked $2,850, and I wound up selling it for $2,750, including sales tax. And here in Alabama, we have the lowest sales tax of any state in the union. Another reason to be a member of the Alabama Independent Auto Dealers Association. And if you're an auto dealer in any place in the country, you ought to join your local association, not just for the benefits like we had talked about earlier, but also for the lobbying benefit to help represent us here in the United States and in your local state. And one of the things we get from our association is consistently we have 2% sales tax in Alabama. So that's something I do a lot of times. I'll say, well, I'll do it. I'll sell it for $2,750 and include your sales tax. And that is a pretty strong negotiating tool for me. I usually can get that from them, because they were offering me a little bit less than that, of course. And my net on that deal, if you calculate all that out, was $1,136 in profit, and that's right where I like to be. I like to be 1,000 or above, and that one I walked away very happily, very happily. I'm going to take one little break, grab a bottle of Kickapoo Joy Juice, and I will be back to talk about a Chrysler 300 that I looked at next. Okay, the next one I want to look at is that I did look at. I want to talk about is a 2007 Chrysler 300. A pretty good looking car, as far as I could see. This one was advertised someplace else. I'm sorry, I didn't write this up. It was not on Marketplace. It was on another site that I don't have in front of me. Anyway, another site where you can advertise cars. I think I also saw it on Marketplace as well. So they're usually both places. But 2007 Chrysler 300. They had 190,000 miles, so pretty high miles. And it was on OfferUp. That's right, OfferUp, and it was they were asking $2,800. It was clean, except in the pictures I could see it had a mismatching gas door, which is kind of strange. Must have got torn off. And the seller on the phone said he would come down to 2,400. My immediate concerns on this one were, number one, it's a Chrysler. I do not like Chryslers. You may like them, and I don't mean to disparage an entire company, but I do not like Chryslers. And when you get to 190,000 miles, there's a whole slew of little things that can be wrong with any car, probably. With the Chrysler 300, if you look it up, you'll find about 15, 16 automatic things that can be a trouble spots. And this one's 16 years old. One of the windows was not working, which is one of those things that are common repair problems. And after I saw it, the air conditioning was not working like it should. The vents weren't properly dispensing the air from the dash, and the air that was coming out didn't feel as cold as it should be. And I think I was fortunate because when I went to look at it, it was warm out. Had it been a little cooler day, I might not have noticed that, and that's a big one. I estimated that the car would ultimately sell for about $3,400 once everything was fixed. And honestly, I have good luck selling these cars. I just always have some questions about the viability after they leave my lot, because I don't really trust them. You can tell I'm not real sold on this one. I estimated that the known problems that I knew about were going to cost me about $600. And I figured probably another $300 for an oil change, for some detailing and miscellaneous costs, plus another $250 for overhead. And that still was going to leave me with I think it was a black gas door on a white car. So I deducted a total of $1,150 from the $3,400 I thought I could sell it for, and then I want to make $1,000 on it, right? At least 1,000, because I've got a little bit more money into this one. So that left me $1,250, and this is one of those times where I got my number, offer the number, and I'm not moving from that. Kind of like when I go to the auction, because it's not a car I'm sold on. So if I'm not sold, like with a Honda, I feel solid about it. I might move the needle a little bit, but Chryslers, I don't like them. As pretty as they are, it's just not my favorite car. So I did that. I offered $1,250. They came back with a counter offer. I said, no, that's not going to do it. You'll sell it. I told them, you'll sell the car. You just won't sell it to me. But I appreciated their time, and I did not buy it. But I got two more, right? I've got two more. Let's talk about those. The next one was a 2004 Ford Taurus, another car that I've had good luck with selling. I haven't had one in a while. I find that Tauruses, every now and then you run into some transmission issues. And this one had a transmission issue, and there was going to be an opportunity here because they told me that it was just a shifter cable. It was on Marketplace for $500, and the guy was just trying to get rid of it. It had 184,000 miles, which for a 04, that's not too bad. And he said it runs good, everything works on it. It just needs a shifter cable, and it won't shift into gear, and it's stuck in my driveway, basically. I ran by to take a look at it, and the body was in fair condition. The interior was pretty dirty. It had bad tires on it, some dry rot. It had been probably sitting there for a while. They had air in them, but they were going to need to be replaced, at least a couple of them. It did start, but like he said, it wouldn't go into gear, and I was questioning that. But he had a document from his mechanic, who turned out to be somebody that I know, that I've done some business with in the past, and the mechanic said it was a shifter cable. So I got on the phone and called John, the mechanic, and we talked, and I told him about which car it was. He remembered it and said that he could do the repair for about $200. He says not a big deal, and the car also needed brakes, which I wouldn't have known unless I drove. I suppose you might know. You might be smarter than me, but he said it needs brakes and obviously tires, and he didn't think the air conditioning worked. And said it needed 2 window regulators, which I hadn't figured out yet. And I think there was a little bit of a misfire on it because it'd been sitting for a while. So I got off the phone with John and with the mechanic and told the seller what he had said, which was not news to him. He obviously knew that the problems were there. I offered him $150 cash and said, I'll take it out of your driveway. I got the cash in my pocket. And it had been sitting there, for a couple of months. It's based on the tags were expired. John had said it had been several months since he'd had it down to his place, and there was a buildup of dirt and some weeds growing up around the tires. We went back and forth, and I'll fight you. I'll fight you for a nickel, man. So I wound up paying him $170, and I bought it. And you're probably thinking, what are you going to do with this one? We managed to push that thing up on my tow dolly because it actually would move a little bit. And I think between pushing and driving, we were able to get it up there. And I took it to 2 other dealer friends of mine. The second one gave me $410 for it. Remember, I'll fight you for $1. $410 for it. He said that'll buy you lunch, and it bought like 3 or 4 lunches for me, that extra 10. But he had another car like it, almost exactly like it. And he just figured that he'd rob from one or the other and build one good one and then scrap the rest. And there's a lot of guys out there. I've talked to you about doing this kind of thing. Talked to you about dealing with other dealers, dealing with other mechanics. It's good to have those relationships that you can do that. And so I was able to sell him for $410. So that netted me a $240 gain for my trouble. And I was in and out of that thing, able to sign the title over with no title cost because he's a licensed dealer too, and walk away with $240 positive and move on to the next deal, right? So I bought that one. The next one, and the last one, number five, where's the camera? There's the camera. Number 5 was a decent looking 2009 Chevy Malibu that, again, I found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was a ways away from me. Sometimes you got to go outside your comfort zone. I like to buy stuff like within 20, 25 miles of myself, so I don't mind towing it very far if I need to tow it or go retrieve it. This one was, I think, close to about an hour and 15 minutes away. It was the 6-cylinder engine. It had 190,000 miles on it, which if you check out Malibus, sometimes they've got some trouble. 2009, good looking car, as far as I could see. And he had it on Facebook Marketplace for $1,940, which was a little strange. He said the motor and transmission were good, but it needed some exhaust work. And when I talked to him, he said, yeah, it rumbles. And so he bought a new car. He said everything else works in it. It's a good car. He said he'd owned it for the past 10 years. He was the second owner. It was his daily driver. But he had bought another, I can't remember if it was a new car or much newer car. And he hadn't been using it. And I naturally asked him, $1,940, where does that come from? Because that's kind of an unusual price. And he said, here's where it came from. He put new tires on it back in May, and he put a new battery in it back in December, and he still owed $450 on it when he first posted it on Facebook, which had been like a month and a half ago, and he was just trying to retrieve that from it. He was about an hour and 15 minutes away from me, so I asked him if he would be willing to meet me halfway, and he said no problem. Now, I had no intention of making him drive halfway. I just asked him that to see if he had any concerns about driving the vehicle, because I could tell, either he was very, very good at lying, but I didn't think that. I've told you before, I generally trust people, and I thought he was being pretty honest. And when he said, yeah, we could do that. I don't know if I can do it today, blah, blah, blah. I could tell that he really wasn't concerned with driving the car. And I reiterated, I said, well, would you have any problem driving it that far? And he said, oh, no, it just rumbles a little bit. It's not anything real bad. It's just got an exhaust leak, and I just never got around to fixing it. And it was getting up in the miles, so I bought a new car. I told him that I didn't think it was likely that he was going to seal a deal where he got reimbursed for his tires and batteries. And I let him know that the trade-in value for that car with that many miles on it was right around $1,200. And fortunately, I got that number from Kelley Blue Book. That was the trade-in dollar value for 190,000 miles on that car. A little bit low, but he said, and that was exactly what they had offered him when he traded his car in. So that was fortunate for me that we were apparently working from the same playbook there. But he just figured he could get more for it. But it had been 5 or 6 weeks since he'd listed it, and he was kind of tired of talking about it. I said, if everything is as you say it is, I would be willing to give him $1,000 cash when I came up to look at it, but I wanted to get some kind of agreement in advance before I drove that far. And he said, nah, he wouldn't do 1,000, but he would take 1,400 for it. I said, well, we're at least talking, and maybe the car is better than I think it is, but let me come up. I want to hear what that rumble sounds like and see it in person and shake your hand. So we set up an appointment. I drove up, I looked at it, I bought it. I bought it for $1,200 cash, and was able to bring it home. And the total for repairs on that, with the exhaust leak and the oil change and a couple other minor things, was just $450. Again, Dennis Johnson, Gary, took care of me. I'm sure if you could do the repairs yourself, it wouldn't have cost as much. But if I did the repairs myself, it would probably still be broken. The car was pretty clean, so I finished the detailing myself with my overhead of $250 per car. I had to spend another $20 to replace a bulb and get an interior part, which I got both of those from carpart.com. You could buy light bulbs on carpart.com. I had a total of $1,920 into the car. Good looking car. I sold it in 6 days on my lot for $3,900. I think I was asking $4,250. Sold it for $3,900, again, including the sales tax, and that netted me $1,875 on that one. That was a pretty sweet one, and felt really good about the car because it gave me a good clean bill of health. kind of high miles, but it had been maintained, and he actually gave me some service records even that were in his glove box, so that helped with the sale. So that's number 5. 3 out of the 5 I did buy, 2 of them I didn't buy, and you know, walked away because remember, you got to walk away. You can't buy everything. And I did make an offer on 4 out of the 5. Sometimes you don't even make an offer because it's just not what you want to do. And the one that I didn't buy, that I did make an offer on, stick to your guns. I think it's important. One time I didn't quite stick to my guns. Well, a couple times I wavered a little bit what my number is. So it's important to have a little bit of wiggle room because especially in the market today, the cars are going for a little bit more. But there's 3 of them that I made money on, 2 I didn't buy. And most of the time when I do a flip, I do make money. It's every now and then, not that doesn't happen. I really didn't feel like talking about a loss today, but usually my losses are pretty minor because I don't risk a lot. Hey, that's what I wanted to share with you today. Remember to do what we said at the beginning of the episode, and if you are a licensed dealer, make sure you get that stuff done. You got to protect yourself. One other thing I want to mention, I went out yesterday. I was talking about my windshield guy replacing the window on a Toyota Tundra I've got. While he was doing it, I walked around my other vehicles that are there and made sure that my buyer's guide were up to date, because a couple of them been out there for a while, and the sun had faded some of my printing on the buyer's guide. So I just went through and redid it so everything was straight on the windshield. I mention this because a lot of you guys are just, I guess you're just fearless. I mean, it scares me. The first thing they look at when they come to your lot to do an inspection is, do you have buyer's guidance in the windows? If you're a licensed car dealer, you know what I'm talking about. That's just that thing that you put in your window that says it is as is, or it does have a warranty, and it tells you who your dealer, what your dealer number is, and puts the VIN number on there. Make sure you got those in your window. It wards off trouble, I'll tell you that much, because if you don't have them, they can actually penalize you quite a bit per vehicle, and that can lead to more trouble for you. Inspection of your paperwork, and make sure that you're doing everything right. You'll learn more of this from your local association. So I know you guys probably think I make a commission from the association. I do not. I just think it's valuable information to share with you, and that's what I'm trying to do is share valuable information. Hey, if you've got valuable information to share with me or with the group, please do so on the car flipping forum, or reach out directly to me by email at FlippingQuestions@gmail.com. Love to have your story, your information on a future episode. If you've got something you'd like to share, let me know, and we can talk about it, whether it be through an interview or through just send me an email, and I'd be happy to share it with everybody. I hope this has been a valuable episode, and help you guys figure out what a sale looks like, what a deal looks like, what one doesn't look like. Learn to walk away and learn to do what you need to do to make the deal happen. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you subscribing. Please, if you are on YouTube right now, please push that subscribe button. Very, very important for the future of Flipping Genius, that we hit the 1,000 subscriber number soon. And if you are listening to the podcast, please like us, save us as a favorite, give me a 5-star review, and most importantly, share us with everybody you know. Tell people to listen to the Flipping Genius, watch us, and share us wherever you're at on social media. Sorry to do so much begging, but it's very, very important. We've got to get these numbers up to make this thing keep growing and shaping and growing. And I want more input from you. I'd love to hear it. Hey, let's work together. Let's make some money. Let's all become flipping geniuses.